Well, Bill, it's a blessing to have you on Sports Talk 1996 on YouTube with me, Zach Barnett. And let's get it rolling, Bill.
Good morning, Zach.
It's an honor to have you on. But let's get it rolling with, how did you get involved with football as a kid?
I was sitting in class. I think I was in fourth grade, and a couple of buddies of mine that were on the local football team, the New Shrewsbury Rhinos, were saying, "You should come out for the team." So I went home and asked my mom if she would take me over there. My mom was kind of hesitant, and but I got her to drive me over to the elementary school, and went over there, and they were probably about 30 kids were out there running around, and there were two guys standing there, and they were guys that worked at a gas station. And after they closed up their job at work, they would come over and work with the kids in the afternoon or in the evening. So I went over and tried out, and just fell in love with the sport, and came home that day and kind of knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, be a professional football player.
Heck yeah,
so
man.
I was blessed. I kind of knew what I wanted to do as a kid.
Definitely, man. So in the realm of football players, who were the ones that you looked up to?
Well, I think the first, I was a quarterback in high school. I played center in grammar school, and then my best friend was a quarterback. He moved. So I wound up, being moved to quarterback because I could take the snap. So I think Joe Willie Namath, he was the first guy that I kind of looked up to, with the white shoes and straight drop back. And that's the offense we ran in high school. So, yeah, without a doubt, Joe Willie Namath was one of the guys I looked up to just growing up, and I wanted to be like.
Definitely, man. So people that don't know your story, you played in the CFL and the NFL. So in the comparison between both, which did you like, or which one did you prefer the most?
Well, obviously playing in the National Football League, it's it's what we grew up with, and what I really like to get to play. But I love the Canadian League too, because 3 downs to make 10, and the line of scrimmages, the guys a yard off the ball, not right on your nose like in the National Football League. So I enjoyed playing both in both leagues, but they're totally two different games. But kind of lean towards playing in the National Football League. It's what we were raised with, and that's what we knew. But the Canadian game was a nice little tweak.
Definitely, man. So did you see any similarities between both besides it being the game of football?
I see a lot of similarities. Well, yeah, the fellas, hanging out with the fellas, that's always, what makes it worth the while. The 3 downs to make 10 instead of 4. So there are a lot of parallels as far as guys working together towards a common goal. But it was a little different game when you were out there. But once you got playing, you would forget that, they're the yard off the line of scrimmage, and it's only 3 downs to make 10. It's a little faster game. So while you're playing it, it's all the same. It's football.
Definitely. But the CFL and the NFL, they pay differently. Did you see the pros and cons of that?
Well, for me, I was playing in the National Football League, and I had a guy, the Montreal Alouettes wanted me to come up there and play. And back in the 70s, it was a little different. They carried a 33-man roster with only 12 Americans on a team. So they were willing to pay a lot of money for an American player to go up there and play. And there's Canadian positions and American positions. If you play in the Canadian League now, almost all the linemen are Canadian. Well, back when I played, the Montreal Alouettes like to run the football. So right tackle and left tackle were a big position for them. So they're willing to pay to get somebody that could move somebody off the line of scrimmage and, where they can guarantee 4 to 6 yards of carry. All right, that would be 2nd and 4, and it really helps the offense. So the Alouettes ran the football a lot. I was up there with Danny Yoakum, who was the Philadelphia Eagles' 2nd-round pick. So when I was with the Giants, I got an offer to go up there and play, and I made more money. Plus, when you exchange the Canadian dollar for the American dollar, you got an extra 28 cents. So for me, it was a business decision. And also playoff money and our share of the Grey Cup back then was almost like a Super Bowl share. So, you got a percentage of the gate, and I think we had 70 or 80,000 people at the Grey Cup in Montreal and about 60,000 in Toronto. So that was always a nice, healthy check in addition to the playoff money and in addition to your regular salary on top of that. So for me, it was, a no-brainer. It was very unusual circumstances. The guys have come behind me, Billy White Shoes Johnson, David Overstreet, Vince Ferragamo, Fred Blitnikoff. So a lot of those guys went up to the Alouettes, for the same reason I did, more money. Tom Cousineau. So that was the way it was back then. So I was blessed to have that opportunity, so took advantage of it.
Definitely. With the CFL and the NFL, are they structured the same, like the PA situation with the NFL?
Well, in the National Football League, when I played, they were just starting out with the National Football League Players Association. They weren't really around that much, but they were there. I guess somebody you could call if you needed them. And the same thing in the CFL, although quite frankly, we never saw any of the guys around, the representatives, and never was a topic of conversation in the locker room. But we did have those unions, but they're in their embryonic stages, not like they are now. We have a rep and they have conventions and all kinds of stuff.
Definitely, man. So, Bill, life after football for you personally, how have you applied the trials and tribulations of the game to your personal life?
Well, I break things down and set goals and then go after them and try to accomplish them. The same thing I did when I was a football player, and the lifestyle was very interesting because when I go into the real world, back then, we weren't getting paid the kind of money the guys are today. So our goal back then was to play 10 years, put $10,000 away, take $100,000 and let it grow. And then maybe when you retired, open up a bar or go into business, or in my case, go to work on Wall Street. So you kind of had to prepare yourself for another job in the off season when you weren't playing professional football because of the money. So only the fools would go out and spend all their money. So what a lot of us did, we had off-season jobs so that we could save our money and not go into our savings from having played for the season before. So it kind of prepared me for the real world and, starting to think of something other than professional football. Some guys went to med school, maybe law school in the off-season. I got my broker's license and started working as a financial consultant. So I kind of learned how to do that over an 8-year period by getting better at it every off season and, going and finding a job. Sometimes I had the same company. It was a little tough back then because nobody would really hire you because your job was seasonal and they didn't want to discriminate against the people that were working there year round. Today, they would probably welcome those types of people in with open arms and have apprentice programs. A lot of it has to do with the money they're paying the guys now. And back then, we were got to work a little bit better at it because we didn't have OTAs. Nobody was paying us in the off season, so you had to kind of create your own way of working on a second career and also training.
Definitely. So you mentioned the earlier football players in the NFL not getting paid as much as they are right now. How can the NFLPA give back to the older generation in a
I think
financial thing?
One of the reasons I do this, it's a business, all right, and the NFL is exempt for antitrust, so they're a monopoly. So they really don't have any vested interest in taking care of the players. Okay, so they kind of push us off as charity cases and things like injuries. We now have a dental program, but not before some of us had to be test monkeys and go up to Dallas and be worked on off the books as charity. So, well, those are things we're blazing a trail for you guys. Okay. The next thing is that I think that the NFL, the money is better now. I think the new collective bargaining agreement, the players now will start out, I think, 2 years making a minimum of $1 million a year if they're rookies. But they didn't really, in the collective bargaining agreement, they didn't really give a lot of thought to, maybe taking care of the players after the game. with things like CTE and other injuries, hip replacements, knee replacements. So they went ahead and signed the collective bargaining agreement because they really didn't look at the deal like they should have. I mean, the older guys like the J.J. Watts and the Richard Shermans, they're kind of going, hey, don't sign this thing so fast. I know the $1 million salary looks good, but let's see if we can get more. Well, they really didn't because the owners wanted that TV contract. So they threw a lot of incentives out there with very high pay raise. And let's face it, most of the guys in the league, play less than 3 years. And they jumped at that salary because they have a limited shelf life. So I think, to answer your question, I think that one of the reasons why I do these things is that my generation, we really didn't get a lot, because of the amount of money. So we're hoping that the young guys will set up a separate fund, all right, and maybe meet players on a case-by-case basis. So that, the NBA just did that with the ABA. I think they signed an agreement to give these guys, the 110 that are left, some money to add to their pensions and those types of things with the merger of the ABA and the NBA. Well, nobody did anything for the ABA players. So I'm a little bit of an anomaly in the sense that I played in the NFL, didn't get vested for my pension, went up to Canada and played up there, didn't play long enough to be vested for a pension. You had to play up there 4 years. Then I played in the USFL, and the USFL was an opportunity for us to get more money, but at the same time, provide for our families, but we missed out on getting vested for years of service when it came to a pension. So there's not a whole lot of us out there, but and I can only speak for my generation that played from 76 to 85. Maybe the players that are playing today will look at it on a case-by-case basis and maybe set up a separate fund where, like the ABA and the NBA, there's a little money coming in to help these guys that were pioneers of the game and help them out with costs, for things that they need for their medical care. So they wind up living to be, in their 70s and 80s and not die because of a lack of care.
Definitely.
So that's the one thing I would say that kind of is my vested interest in talking to the young people. I like to say we're handing the ball off to you guys. We blazed the trail. We want to teach you what we learned. I like social media because people can see YouTube channels and Wikipedia pages and see your body of work. So you'll listen to us and say, okay, I saw this in the 80s with cable TV. Now it's social media with a smartphone. It's still the same business model. The only thing that's changed is the zeros. So now we can move a little bit of that money over there into separate funds and take care of the few guys that are still left that, might need some help because it really wasn't addressed 20 or 30 years ago. And now they're at retirement age. And you guys will be old once, sooner or later, when you get in your, around your 60s and stuff like that, your body's, you'll be glad that you have some place you can go to get hip replacements or, the proper dental care or be diagnosed with sleep apnea, and have some place to go, or if you're running into problems financially that you can call a union that maybe is a little stronger now because they have more money to work with, that kind of stuff.
Definitely, man. I think the willing to give guys the proper medical attention with the CTE, you see several guys die from that.
Yeah.
I think they really should look into it and more dive deep into the problem.
We're on a ground floor. I think Chris Nowinski is a Harvard grad. He's heavily into that. He's on Facebook. He's out there right now advocating for players with CTE. We're still in the embryonic stage. We got a long way to go. And the NFL is, for years their business. Where we want to send out for studies. We used to hear that. We knew about CTE back 25, 30 years ago. They even denied it even existed. Okay, because they don't want the liability to take care of injured players. Now we know it's kind of a reality, but they want to deal in other ways, and that's where charity comes in, or people that will contribute a little bit with their paycheck. I know, when a player signs a $265 million contract, and half of that money's guaranteed, and you got 150 million, maybe you take $5,000 and send it up to an outfit that will, and put that into a fund to help some of these guys with things like CTE. Okay, because now they're starting to realize that it's a reality and it's here to stay. Hell, I was just watching practice the other day, and they're walking around with those Zoom helmets on, look like the kazoo from the Flintstones, So it's a little bit of an overreaction, but at the same time, every bit a little bit it helps. And I guess it's a mandate by the league now that they got to, wear those pads over their helmets. So I guess that's fine. Me, I'd rather see the money and, maybe less show and a little bit more dough. Okay.
Definitely. Hey, especially them limiting practice. I think that's really helped the league too. It used to be 2-a-days. They're shying away from that, which is a very
Yes.
good positive.
Well, at least, just come out in shells in the afternoon, kind of compromise. In the morning, it usually is a hitting day, full pads. You're out there running around. And then in the afternoon, maybe you can go out in shells or, don't have to have shoulder pads on. You just go out there and with your Zoom helmet and run around. We call it slap and tickle. And maybe that's a compromise. Because the coaches, if they had their way, they'd have us out there for 2-a-days till the cows came home. But unfortunately, we have a union that kind of compromised that a little bit, so we're not worked to death. Because coaches, they want to be out there all day long.
Heck yeah, get better.
Oh yeah, get it right.
I'm glad you mentioned the current situation in the NFL. That brings us to two more questions, and they're brought to you by B&D Sports Media, and includes the Giants. Will the Giants be successful in 2022?
They're working on it. I think they're good for 6 games this year. Okay, that'll be an improvement. We'll see if Barkley stays healthy, and see if Daniel Jones develops. And they got some good pieces on defense, so they could be sneaky good. But I don't think they're going to win the division. I think it's between Philadelphia and Dallas.
They're bringing in Dayball from Buffalo. I think that'll be a key acquisition at coach.
Yeah, hopefully he'll get Daniel Jones to step up his game a little bit, stop throwing so many picks, get rid of the ball. And, it's a team game. So if you got a really good running game, you can play great defense, which I think's always been the Giants' formula. Have a quarterback that doesn't give away the game and can complete some balls. I think the head coach that's why he's there, kind of help him go to that next level and be a little bit more productive when it comes to making decisions on the field. So, you never know. They could be a lot better than they have been. So we have them underestimated.
Definitely. I think Daniel Jones is probably on the hot seat. That's just my take on it.
Oh yeah. The coach is on the hot seat too. I think they'll improve. I'm a Giants fan, so I want to see them do well. But you got to rebuild your team, and they're going through that process right now. And when having Barkley hurt last year was a big missing piece out of their offense.
Heck yeah! Coming from Penn State, I think they've worked him to death. Just being honest.
Yeah. Well, you got a horse, ride it.
So, with my next question, it's Saquon Barkley related. How impactful would it be for Saquon Barkley to be healthy the whole season? You think that's game changing?
When you can have your bell cow running back stay healthy the whole season, be rushing for over 1,000 yards and trying to get 15. That really, and you play great defense. That could be the key to their entire season. It's a long season, so let's just hope, knock on wood, that all that stuff that's in the past, is no longer that. And he winds up having a solid year, doesn't get too dinged. So hopefully that'll be the case. I think they got a lot riding on it.
Definitely.
But you still got to convert on third down with a quarterback that hits the open guy and doesn't throw picks. So I think they're working on it. And I think they're pretty decent defensively. You'd be surprised. They played pretty good defense last year. Definitely. In the National Football League, a lot of the games come down to the last 3 or 4 minutes. So all the teams are pretty much equal. So hopefully they won't be snake bit and produce a little bit and probably have a little better season than a lot of people think they will.
Heck yeah. But with that, the bell cow running back, that doesn't really fare well for NFL teams now. You can go to Saquon Barkley. You can go to Ezekiel Elliott from the Cowboys. You put all that wear and tear on that body, and without a relief coming in, maybe third down running back, I think that's what the Giants need. They need to train and adapt a third round or a third down running back to go in there and take some snaps from Barkley, so he's more fresh.
We always got to have a couple of runners. You have to have a stable. You even have to have two quarterbacks these days. Guys get dinged. So you don't want to miss a beat when you put a backup in there, whether it be a running back or a quarterback.